Hey everyone, welcome back to Mitratech's Morning Coffee. For the first time in a long time, I'm actually joined by Claudia. Welcome back, Claudia.
Thanks for having me, Karl.
Hey, what coffee are you having today?
Well, today it's actually just a plain black coffee, no sugar, no milk.
Straightforward, I love it. So, I did a little research. 20 years ago, Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man. Second Harry Potter movie had just come out. The iPod still had that classic wheel to navigate. There was no iPhone. The first cell phone with a built-in camera just hit the market. The euro was introduced, and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was signed into law. And so, in July, 20 years ago, it was the SOX birthday. So I figured, let's talk a little bit about SOX today. Now, most people know it's a law that is making sure that the accuracy and completeness of financial statements of a public company are transparent to investors, to auditors, but it's so much more than that. And from your view, how has SOX developed over the past 20 years?
Yeah, so looking back, I would say that it's probably a fair statement that it was the largest and the most comprehensive governance framework that got introduced, touching across all of the organization, all legal entities, critical business processes, and addressing various different disciplines, process level controls, IT controls. So it was a fairly big effort for all companies who needed to achieve compliance with this. Also, we sometimes forget that it introduced new levels of liability and accountability for senior managers on board level. So I guess that was the big thing there. What we still see today is that there is a lot of documentation effort out there. It's documenting the control, it's testing the control, documenting the test, etc., etc. So it does add a lot of value. I still think so, because it provides that transparency over the accuracy of financial reporting, but it also creates a lot of effort still.
Well, I actually have a number that I researched. So the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, or PCAOB, has protected more than $40 trillion in investor exposure. All right, so I mean, that's not a small thing to do in the last 20 years. But I agree with you, the surprising thing is that there still is so much effort or manual effort required in order to create the transparency and have appropriate design and effectiveness of controls. So let's look at sort of the next 20 years. What's your prediction? What's going to happen in this space, and what role is technology going to play?
Yeah, so I think we've seen in the past couple of years already a sort of a trend for regulations to be a bit more specific, not that broad, but addressing one certain area, like maybe GDPR, like DORA, like NIST, and also like the Supply Chain Act that's going to be effective from January on in Germany. And I think the challenge here is going to be to still work towards that integrated assurance landscape, right? So yes, make sure you are in compliance with all of those specific regulations, but also don't duplicate efforts. And I think efforts are still in a manual way, as you said. I often have conversations about, look, I need my RCM, I need it in a spreadsheet style kind of format. So that's still very much in the heads of the organizations. Now, I think technology is going to be super important, obviously, because all the processes are going to be more and more automated anyway. We talk about digital processes every day, and I think it's going to be a huge leverage to make sure that you use the data that you get out of those automated processes and controls.
Yeah, and I really like the way you framed the sort of derivative nature of a lot of new regulation back to SOX. And for me, another great example of that is actually the whistleblowing component. Right, so the European Union is rolling out new regulation around whistleblowing, and a lot of that goes back or can be seen as infrastructure foundation that was laid through the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. And we've had some just amazing cases. If you think of Theranos, where the entire fraudulent nature of the product was brought or identified by a whistleblower that was enabled by the empowerment of the SEC, by Sarbanes-Oxley. So an incredible contribution. I also, could not agree more that it's surprising how manual sometimes the challenges around implementing SOX is. I mean, that's why, for example, we put a lot of thought in the Align product into how can we create meaningful controls based on the ICFR control framework to at least take away that initial design component and point people in the right direction. And I agree that, the next big step is taking meaningful data sources, bringing them together and automating some of those controls. So definitely a space to watch.
Absolutely.
And to our listeners, if you want to learn more, check out the links below. We've got some cool resources on how the ICFR control framework can help implement a mature SOX compliance framework. And with that, happy reading and looking forward to catching up next time.
See you soon.